came back from golfing. It got rained out. But anyway, welcome to you. It is Wednesday, and today we're going to talk about IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. It's the one that most people don't like to talk about because it's so prevalent. We all sort of have a problem with that, just not quite regular. I went today, I didn't go tomorrow. All kind of different bowel function problems, bloating, gas, you name it, it just fills in. And there's all kind of ways to treat it. Probiotics have really surfaced as the best way to treat it. We understand that. Well, Georgia State University here in the lovely land of the South did a research piece by interviewing individuals with irritable bowel syndrome. So I ask you a question: are you an individual with irritable bowel syndrome? Because if you are, you may have been interviewed with this one. So what they wanted to find out was, in the United States now, they went all over the place talking to people with IBS and said, what are some of the common foods that you consume? Now, we're not pointing fingers. We're not here saying, well, if it's a mandarin orange and that it's been documented to inflame IBS. It's not. But if that, for instance, is the issue, I'm not going to sit here and point fingers at you. But what we're looking for is something that sort of flies under the radar, that says most of you are eating this, not realizing that it's inflaming your gut. So it's a pretty cool little list. So if you do have IBS, or maybe you don't. Maybe you know somebody who does. Maybe it's a child or a relative, a husband, a wife. Ask them these questions. Let's talk about some foods you commonly eat. You fill in the blanks. You tell me. The researchers analyzed the National Health Interview Survey to determine the food intake and frequency of 3 million U.S. adults. There are two types of conditions: Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. Inflammatory bowel disease, which is characterized by chronic inflammation of the gastrointestinal tract, affects these 3 million patients. Common symptoms of inflammatory bowel disease includes persistent diarrhea, abdominal pain, rectal bleeding or bloody stools, weight loss, and fatigue, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the infamous CDC. The researchers analyzed this food frequency and consumption of these U.S. adults. The survey assessed 26 foods. The findings, published in the journal Public Library of Science 1, reveals that foods typically labeled as, any guesses? Junk food were associated with inflammatory bowel disease. The most common foods consumed by those with IBS were, you ready? Want to write them down? French fries, topping the list. Cheese, cookies, soda, sports and energy drinks. This was done by researchers at the Institute for Biomedical Sciences at Georgia State. The study found that French fries were consumed by a greater number of people with IBS, and they also ate more cheese and cookies and drank less 100% fruit juice compared to people who didn't have inflammatory bowel disease. So when you look at something that you drank, which may be helpful, 100% fruit juice, not tons of it, just on a regular basis, they didn't do that. Intaking fries and sports and energy drinks and frequently drinking soda were significantly associated with having been told one of the inflammatory bowel diseases. Consuming milk or popcorn were less likely associated with receiving this diagnosis. Now, that doesn't mean, okay, you just gave me the okay to eat milk and popcorn. While foods typically labeled as junk food were positively associated with inflammatory bowel disease, we found that eating patterns of people with or without this disease to be very similar, said Dr. Han, H-A-N, the study's first author, who completed the work as a PhD student at the Institute of Biomedical Sciences. He's now working at the infamous CDC. He said this, quote, however, it's unclear whether the survey results reflect a potential change in the food intake of people with inflammatory bowel disease long before the survey was concluded. In other words, did they change anything? To fully understand the role of food intake in inflammatory bowel disease risk and prevalence, it's important to explore environmental factors. For example, food deserts, BS, food processing, BS, and potential bioactive food components that can induce intestinal inflammation. Yeah, you're going to be able to teach somebody that. We need to instruct individuals. If you're having bowel issues, take time off. Just because this is where these bleeding hearts are going again, you're in the poor inner city and you don't have any place to go get good food, and that could be why you're buying French fries, cheese, soda, and sports and energy drinks? Because you have no choice. Now, I will tell you that I had a young lady come in here with a horrible case of irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease, on a very low-income diet, low-income, and told me, carte blanche, that she spent all her money buying all her dietary food at the dollar store. You tell me one healthy thing that you might be able to buy at the diet store. There isn't any. Don't even try to pretend. So, once again, irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease. You know somebody that has that kind of issue? Maybe it's you. Maybe you're suffering with bloating and gas. Well, first of all, if you want to call and set up a time, they called me the gut guy. We'll talk about it. We'll go in depth, try to tear it apart and fix it. But I'm going to take you away from these kind of foods. Now, if you're telling me, hey, look, I don't eat fries, cheese, cookies, soda, sports, or energy drinks, popcorn, or milk, then there's probably something structurally wrong. And that's what we'll go after. Something like GI Complete. We'll go in and heal the situation and get the bowels back where they need to. And that will affect other significant body functions as well. Georgia State University. You have issues like that, you want to talk about it more in depth, give us a call, set up your time at 678-228-8900, 678-228-8900. Our website is thenutritionshop.net. Now, one of my fellow golfers today took me aside and said, hey, I watched that YouTube video you did on breaking the chain of alcohol addiction when we talked about brain chemistry. And I appreciated his comments, because his comment to me was, isn't it amazing? Something that's just carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen that's put together in a specific way can basically turn somebody's life on its ear. And yes, he agreed. The brain chemistry issue is a big one. But he went into the psychological side of saying how most people, and he being a recovering alcoholic, found it necessary at times to escape from yourself. So he turned into an alcoholic. Good words. I thank him for his response. You want more information on that, you can go back to our YouTube channel and check it out. By all means, make sure you're back with us tomorrow. We're going to go back into the hot news. Good old Fauci back in the press again. We'll talk about COVID-19. He says, look out, because of all these protests, it's coming back, it's getting bigger. And yet those idiots that protested tore down 70 COVID-19 testing centers and destroyed them. It's hideous. God bless you, folks. Anything that we can do for you, please give us a call, 678-228-8900. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Take care.